What up, tribe? What up, tribe? This is going to be your review of Growing Up Hip Hop Season 4, Episode 3. And I told you guys last week that I was really torn about this whole storyline with Boogie, and I'm still torn. But we're gonna go ahead and get through it. This episode had a couple of interesting things that went on. We start off at the party where we left off last week, where Brianna wants to confront Sam, Idris' boyfriend, because supposedly he said that Brianna tried to push up on him, and Brianna was like, "I'm gonna clear my motherfucking name and keep your name out my mouth," type of thing. Like, she's really upset by it, which I would be too, because that's not something you play with. One, she's friends with Egypt, and that's just not cool. And then two, it's just about having that rumor out there that you're trying to push up on this dude that you're not really trying to push up on. So she pulls everybody that was involved in it outside. So it's her, Brianna. Brianna. It's Brianna, Sam, Troy, and TT. Now, why TT was there, I don't know, in Egypt. Because TT ain't had nothing to do with it, other than the fact that she just messy and in shit. And she even said, "Ooh, this don't have nothing to do with me this time," but she was still outside. Anyway, so, and Pep was like, "They grown. I'm going to let them handle their business. Like, if it become a problem, I'll go out there. But until then, I ain't got nothing to do with that." So when she actually confronts Sam, and she's like, "So I heard that you said I was trying to push up on you." Sam was like, "I said that?" And she was like, "Yeah, Troy." And the best thing she could have done was to have all of them together so that we're going to see who's lying. Well, it was Troy. He got the... well, you and... Because Sam was like, "I ain't say it. Like, I did not say it. I don't know what you're talking about." And so at first I was like, well, Sam could be lying. But then the way Troy started stammering and stuttering, I was like, maybe not so much, because you sounding crazy right now. And so Brianna was just like, "Yeah, okay, well, just keep my name out your mouth. I just wanted to clear this up." And then TT was like, "Well, Brianna, can we talk?" And Brianna was like, "I'm not, no, like, I'm out." And TT was like, "Well, like, Brianna, what is the problem?" Now, I understood what she was trying to do, because she really wanted to find out. She was like, "Me and Bree used to be cool, and all of a sudden I'm just getting this vibe off of her, and I just wanted to talk and find out what happened. Like, why are we not cool anymore?" But Brianna was being the bitch that she is, and she was already irritated about that whole situation. And she was like, "I don't really want to talk to you right now. Leave me alone." Now, TT should have left it at that. But of course, TT is going to follow her out and try to make her talk. You can't make somebody have a conversation with you, and especially somebody like Brianna. It's going to get combative, and it's going to get ugly. And y'all just know that Brianna's a bitch like that. Like, she just is. So that didn't go too well, and that kind of fell apart. So they go back in the house, and Pep was like, "Well, what the fuck? Like, what happened?" And they tell Pep the story, and Pep was like, "So basically, Troy, you lied. Like, you you exaggerated, you changed it, whatever, but you lied, and you creating some drama." So Pep was not happy about that, and that's kind of where that scene ended. Then we see Angela with JoJo. I guess JoJo's on the show this year, because he done flew out to California too, and they go out to lunch. And basically it was another check-in with Angela, make sure you good with the breakup. There was a photo spread where there was a picture of at her son's birthday party, and the father, the guy that she broke up with, was actually in the picture. And JoJo was like, "Well, I guess the picture had already gone to print before the breakup, or before Angela was ready to tell the world about the breakup, and so it made it into, excuse me, and so it made it to the spread." And he was like, "Well, how does that make you feel?" And she was like, "Look, he's the father of my child. We co-parenting. It is what it is." And then she told him she was going to Orlando with Rome, and he was like, "That sounded like is it a date?" And Angela was like, "It's not a date. We're just hanging out. We're just friends hanging out." He was like, "If I fly somebody out to Orlando and we going to the basketball game, that sounds like a date to me." But then we see Brianna shopping for stuff. She's having a release party. And so she's shopping for the sage and for all the different things she wants to have for the release party. And she actually is talking to, she has a friend with her, and she kind of rehashed everything that happened at the party with the guy with Troy lying on her and stuff. And then she talks about Boogie. And she was like, the day after the party, Boogie calls me. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. And he's like, yeah, did my dad show you that video? And she said he was slurring and sounding crazy. And she was like, yeah, he showed me the video. And what is wrong with you right now? Like, you sound like you high. And he was like, I am. And she was like, it's 9 o'clock in the fucking morning and you're high already. Like, I really think Boogie needs help. Boogie has a problem. And I think maybe we need to do an intervention or something drastic. So she ends up going to Dame's house and kind of talking to Dame about it. And she said, I have a friend who does interventions. Like, I could set it up. I could blah, blah, blah. Like, I could get it together. And he was like, I really appreciate, like, you really show me that you care about my son. And I know this is coming from a sincere place. Like, I know it's not coming from a gossipy place or anything like that. And so he said that, he said, I'm just afraid that my son is going to die. Like, I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my son. And so they're going to do this intervention. I like the fact that she said that there are going to be some qualified people there doing the intervention that know what they're doing, that is their business. Like, they didn't just decide they was going to bring everybody together and confront him. Because when you're dealing with a real addict, doing something, intervention is serious. And it needs to be done by people who know what they're doing. Like, if not, because it's going to get ugly anyway, but it could just be really bad if you don't have qualified people in the room. I'm so sorry. So then we see Angela and Vanessa meeting up for lunch, and basically the purpose of that conversation is for them to decide they want to work on something together. They used to do the tennis shoes back in the day, and they want to kind of come together and figure something out. So they went round and round about different things, like doing a mommy blog or doing, because both of them are mothers now, doing something dealing with the children, bringing the children into it. So, they knocked some stuff around and they decided that they were going to work on a blog. And then I think they also said they was going to work on something dealing with clothing, apparel, or whatever for kids. Well, later on in the episode, we see Angela has a meeting with the guy that owns Coogee and some other things. And he basically offers her a partnership to do like a urban, like a, not urban, what are they calling it now? Basically active wear. Like, it's really big now. I forget the actual title that they call it, but it's really big now. The leisure wear. No, that's not it. Active leisure. Anyway, basically, like the cute sweatsuits. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the yoga pants that people are wearing as real pants. That kind of thing. And she was like, I'm definitely down for that. I do a lot of working out. Like, people know that I do that. Like, that's my thing. And he said, but the only catch is I want you to sign a non-compete clause. Like, I don't want to worry about you spreading yourself too thin or your brand being diminished because you work with somebody else. And I mean, that's standard. A non-compete is a standard thing. It's not a big deal, generally speaking. But she's worried that that's going to stop her from working on this project with her sister. And she was like, I just have to make the best business decision for myself. So y'all know what that means. There's going to be some sort of conflict with her and her sister not doing the project that they wanted to work on. But that's a different problem for a different episode, right? Then we see Pep, Egypt, Sam, and TT having a little powwow, having lunch, and they're talking about Troy and how Troy is just messy and he's, he lied and he's just carrying gossip and that's not cool. And TT was like, now I'm questioning all that stuff he told me about Brianna and Romeo. I'm mad at Brianna over something that may not even be true. And, that's just not cool. And Pep is just like, yeah, because, I just don't like mess. I don't like the messy. And, you just can't be doing that and bringing the mess. And I'm done. He's fired. I'm done. You ain't had no problem last year when it was Christina that he was gossiping about. Y'all thought that shit was funny and it was cute. And y'all had a whole Kiki session about it and carried it throughout the whole season. Like, Pep talking about something. You talking about mine now. You talking about mine. Oh, so because it's your daughter, it's different. You didn't have no problem with Troy being messy when Troy was talking about everything else and everybody else. But now you feel like he interfering in your daughter's relationship. Now you gonna fire him for doing what he's always been doing. She talking about something. He broke code. He's telling our personal business from our inner circle. He broke code. What? He broke code. Anyway, I think that's bullshit, and I think that's a double standard. And I get it that when it's your child or when it's yours that you feel some kind of way about it. But at the end of the day, you can't. I just feel like the reaction is real harsh. But maybe I'm crazy. I'm not saying that I wouldn't be pissed off, and I'm not even saying I wouldn't want to fire him. I'm not saying that, but all I'm saying is don't act like this is who he is. This is who he's been. And just because that snake didn't bite you, don't mean that he wasn't a snake the whole time. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, then we get to this cleansing ceremony. Now, Brianna irks my soul. Let me just tell y'all how Brianna irks my soul. She irks my soul because I think she's nasty for no fucking reason. And this whole cleansing ceremony where she wants to release things and let things go, and I'm like, you need to release that attitude. You need to release that chip you got on your shoulder. Like, I don't know what you cleansing yourself of, but if it's a start, let's start it. But with all that being said, Pep, you made me have to side with Brianna on this one just a little bit because I had beef with something. Okay, so they invited Boogie. And she wants Boogie to cleanse himself of the drug toxins and all that good stuff or whatever. Here's my problem. When we roll up on you, you sitting there smoking a joint. Now, later on, you said it was tobacco. That wasn't no fucking tobacco. Your ass was smoking some weed. An addict is an addict is an addict. And just like last week when you were justifying the weed thing, where Dame is getting mad at Pep about the alcohol, but got Boogie working at a weed farm, talking about, well, weed isn't as addictive and nobody dies from weed, where versus an addict is an addict is an addict. And alcohol, marijuana, whatever, is a trigger. So for him to walk up smelling weed probably wasn't the best decision, Brianna, if you really, really worried about Boogie. So, Egypt's there, Sam's there, Boogie's there. Pep shows up late with her boyfriend. Now, y'all know, just as a sidebar, y'all know that whole thing that went on with Pep, with the internet. Supposedly this boyfriend she started dating and his wife aired her ass out on social media. That's him. He shows up with Pep. Pep shows up with some motherfucking champagne. Now, you may not have known that was inappropriate, even though they told you last week don't have no alcohol around Boogie, and you knew Boogie was going to be there. But okay, whatever. But when Brianna asked you to leave it outside of the circle and to not have the alcohol, that should have just been it. That should have just been the end of it. Like, do you need a drink that bad that you can't wait an hour to have a drink later on? Like, y'all could have went out after the ceremony and went and got something to eat and had a drink there. Like, Pep, you was wrong. So anyway, I done went on the sidebar. So they're having the ceremony. Pep shows up late. She has alcohol. Boogie actually does write on his paper that he wants to release, the drugs and all that good stuff. So when he says it, Pep says to him, do you think that I'm part of your problem? And again, I don't feel like that was the appropriate place to have that conversation. I feel like once the ceremony was over, once everybody went through the circle and did their thing, you could have maybe said, well, Boogie, can I talk to you for a minute? Do you mind stepping over here? But what you did was you interrupted the whole ceremony. And so the cameras actually follow Pep and Boogie for this conversation. And we missed the rest of the ceremony. I don't know what Egypt said. I don't know what Sam said. I don't know what nobody else in the circle said. And Pep ain't never released nothing. But Boogie said what was right. He said, "No, I'm a grown man. I made my own decisions, and if I decided to have a drink, I had a drink. It wasn't your fault. You didn't have nothing to do with it. That's on me," which is actually valid, and that's what I said last week. Like, and Pep's thing is, if he does have a problem, he should, like, you can't just shield him from the alcohol. He's gonna have to learn how to be around alcohol. So, what's the big deal? Pep, you clearly have never dealt with an addict. I mean, you just, like, if you just can't respect the space when they're saying, look, we're trying to get this person some help, therefore, we don't want this person around a trigger, and you can't respect that, that's a problem. So then Pep comes back and wants to open up the champagne, and Brianna is like, look, I asked you not to have it in my space. And Pep, like, really gets an attitude about it and gets mad. She want to talk about it. What's the big deal? You're smoking. And that's when she said she just had the tobacco. But I still think it was some weed. But anyway. But why didn't you just respect the fact that she didn't want the alcohol there? Even if Boogie wasn't a factor, she's saying, no, this is my event. I don't want the alcohol here. I don't want the champagne here. Can you not have it? So then Pep walks away and opens up the champagne, and then she's being, am I far enough away from your circle? Am I far enough away? So they end up getting into an argument, and of course, y'all know Brianna. She don't know how to hold her mouth. She was like, tell her to get the fuck away, and Pep was like, who you talking to? Like, now you're being disrespectful. You don't tell me get the fuck away. I'll be where, anyway. They're back and forth, back and forth. Boogie's like, I'm just going to separate. I'm just going to leave and excuse myself from this situation because it ain't got nothing to do with me. Which it does have everything to do with you. So then Pep throws the damn champagne on the fire and puts the fire out. It's real elementary school Pep. Like, you the oldest person in the room. And you were wrong. I'm sorry. You were wrong. And I hate the fact that you made me have to agree with Brianna on anything. Even though I still feel like, Brianna, you were wrong because I feel like that was weed. But anyway. We see a nothing scene with JoJo and Vanessa. They just talking about nothing. They're talking about Angela and Romeo. And like I said, it's clear that is their storyline for the whole season. It's going to be Angela and Romeo. But then we see Angela and Romeo in Orlando, and they're actually having a really good time. They're real relaxed and flirty and taking pictures and videos and all kinds of stuff. They go to the club afterwards, and they have some drinks. And then they head back to the hotel. And then Angela was like, well, the night ain't over. Or is it? You know her ass. And it shows them going into the hotel room and the door closing and that being it. Girl, please, they ain't do nothing. I just don't believe Angela did that because Angela's not that person. Like, she's a very private person. If her and Romeo were getting down, she wouldn't allow it to be filmed. I just don't believe she would. Maybe she's mellowed in her old age. Maybe now that she's not holding on to the virgin thing anymore, maybe she is, but... Now, that's not to say that they haven't slept together or that nothing happened. I just don't think it happened that night that way because I don't think she would have opened us up to that. Last thing we see is Boogie's intervention. And that's pretty much where it ends. Brianna takes him to the hotel, lies to him, tells him it's a house, that it's a hotel party with some friends. And, Brianna, it's so obvious that you lying. Like, Boogie knows something's up. It's obvious that you lying. You can't look him in the face. You stuttering over your words. When he asks you a question, you stumbling through the answer. Like, it's so clear that you're lying. It's not even like, it's just clear that you're lying. I'm sorry. I couldn't find my words. But that's where it ends. But what I found interesting, because like I said, I told y'all last week I had a really big problem with if his addiction is as bad as they're making it out to be. I have a problem with him being on the show. I feel like he shouldn't be on the show and that they should be focusing on getting him help. And I just feel like they shouldn't be allowing the addiction to be exploited. But what the intervention people were meeting with the family before he got there, and they were like, we need to be clear on what our objective is going to be. What is the objective? And Dame was like, well, if he doesn't agree to go into rehab, then he's done with the show. And the guy was like, well, can you make that happen? Dane was like, I made it happen. I told the producers, if he doesn't agree to go to rehab, this will be his last day taping. That I will no longer be a part of the show, and he will no longer be a part of the show, because if he said this is how he makes his money. I don't give him money anymore. So this is how he's keeping his addiction going. So if he don't have a check, then he's going to be forced to get his shit together. And I was like, that's valid. And so I see where he's coming from with that. Like, look, I'm going to give you the opportunity to save your situation, but you got to agree to go to rehab. And if not, that's it. It's a wrap. The only problem is with that, because that's all you can do. Like, that's all you can do, Dame. You're doing what you can do, honestly. But at the end of the day, Boogie's going to have to make a decision whether he's ready to get help or not. Point blank, period. Addicts have to be ready to receive. And you can put a lot of things in place, but you cannot lead the horse to water type situation. So that's where we left off, and we'll see what ends up happening next week. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about it in them comments. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and y'all have a good evening.